He stole my idea, fired me, and then went bankrupt? Yeah, that was me on the receiving end and eventually the giving end. Alright, so, I'm Liam, 28 years old. Back then, I was fresh out of coding boot camp, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, thinking I could actually make a dent in the universe. Or, at least build a decent algorithm that wouldn't crash every 5 minutes. I was a mid-level coder drone at a tech company called Innovate Solutions. Sounds impressive, right? It wasn't. It was soul-crushing. I'd been married for about 3 years at that point, trying to juggle the whole work-life balance thing with Sarah. She was a saint. Seriously. While I was buried in lines of code, she was hustling, trying to get her own small graphic design business off the ground. Sarah's design studio, she even had a website and everything. Life was okay. We weren't exactly living the high life, but we were making it work. Rent was paid, fridge was mostly full, and we had each other. That mattered. Richard, my boss, though, that guy was a walking, talking cliché. Picture a used car salesman who discovered Patagonia vests and thought he'd suddenly become a tech guru. Always talking about synergy, disruptive innovation, and how we were changing the paradigm. The problem? The man couldn't code his way out of a wet paper bag. He wouldn't know an algorithm if it bit him on the ass. He was all about the image, the big idea, the grandiose vision, which meant he was constantly on the prowl for someone else to have those ideas for him. He was a parasite, plain and simple. At first, I actually bought into his shtick. He had this way about him, an almost hypnotic confidence. He gave off this vibe of knowing exactly what he was doing, and he was damn good at selling himself. He could charm the pants off a snake. But it didn't take long to see through the facade. The guy was all talk and no trousers. He'd take credit for my suggestions in meetings, little things at first, like suggesting a different framework for a project or pointing out a flaw in a design. Then it escalated. He'd subtly demean anyone who didn't agree with him, making them feel stupid in front of the whole team. He generally created this atmosphere of constant competition and anxiety. It was toxic. Absolutely toxic. I started keeping every single email, every project file, even scribbled notes from our meetings. Just in case. Call it paranoia, call it intuition, but I knew something was brewing. Sarah started noticing the change in me. I was more stressed, more irritable, less present. We'd argue about stupid things, who used the last of the milk, whether we should watch Netflix or Hulu, the usual couple stuff. But underneath it all, there was this undercurrent of tension. She knew I was unhappy at work, but I downplayed it. I didn't want to burden her with my problems. She had enough on her plate already. The big idea came to me during a particularly brutal late night. I was staring at my screen, bleary-eyed, trying to debug a particularly nasty piece of code when Sarah came into my office. She was slumped, defeated. She'd been struggling to market her services. She was good, really good. Her designs were clean, modern, and effective. But she was spending all her time doing design work and none actually getting clients. She was drowning in admin, marketing, and all the other stuff that comes with running a small business. That's when it hit me. Like a bolt of lightning. A simple, all-in-one, cloud-based marketing platform designed specifically for small businesses like hers. Drag-and-drop website builder, email marketing tools, social media integration, analytics, the whole shebang, but stupid simple to use. Intuitive. User-friendly. A one-stop shop for everything a small business owner needed to get their name out there. I called it Marketees. Cheesy, I know, but I was working on a better name. I poured everything into it. Weekends, nights, lunch breaks. I became a hermit. I was fueled by caffeine, adrenaline, and the burning desire to build something amazing. Something that would actually help people. Something that would make Sarah's life easier. After months of relentless development, fueled by instant ramen and sheer willpower, I had a working prototype. It wasn't perfect, but it was functional. It was promising. I polished it up, prepped a killer presentation, complete with mock-ups and projected ROI, and walked into Richard's office, my palms sweatier than a gym sock. I felt like I was about to pitch to the sharks on Shark Tank. Richard's reaction was intense. He kept interrupting, asking questions, his eyes practically glowing with dollar signs. He saw it. He saw the potential. He even said, "Liam, this could save the company." Innovate Solutions had been struggling for a while. They were bleeding money on poorly executed projects and outdated technology. Marketees could be their lifeline. I was walking on air. I felt like I'd finally proven myself. That all the late nights, all the sacrifices had been worth it. I left his office buzzing with excitement. I called Sarah immediately, practically shouting into the phone. She was thrilled. She told me she knew I could do it, that she was proud of me. We made plans to celebrate that night. Dinner at our favorite Italian place, maybe even a movie. I felt like I was on top of the world. A week later, HR called me in. Ms. Periwinkle, a woman who always smelled faintly of lavender and regret, led me to a sterile conference room. They said the company was restructuring and my position was being eliminated. Downsizing, they called it. Standard corporate bullshit. I was floored, devastated. I pressed for a reason, anything other than budgetary concerns. That's when Richard walked in, all fake sympathy and platitudes. He looked like he was about to cry, but I knew it was all an act. He put his hand on my shoulder, I swear I could feel the slime radiating off him, and said, "Liam, this was a tough decision, but sometimes we have to make sacrifices for the greater good." The greater good? His greater good, you mean? The greater good of his bonus, his reputation, his goddamn ego. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to scream. But I just stood there, numb, as they handed me a severance package and escorted me out of the building. Like I was some sort of criminal. Marketees launched 3 months later under the Innovate Solutions banner. Seeing ads for it was like being stabbed in the gut every damn day. There was Richard, all smiles, giving interviews, accepting awards, all for my idea. My blood, sweat, and tears. He was lauded as a visionary, a genius. The irony was almost unbearable. I was furious, but what could I do? Suing would have bankrupted me. I didn't have the money to fight a corporate giant like Innovate Solutions. I felt helpless. Sarah tried to console me, but I was inconsolable. I was angry at Richard, angry at the company, and angry at myself for being so naive. For trusting him. For thinking that my hard work would be rewarded. I sank into a depression. I stopped coding, stopped going out, stopped even talking to Sarah. Our relationship started to crumble. That's when the anger curdled into something colder, something more calculated. A slow burn. Retribution. I didn't yell, I didn't scream, I didn't even punch a wall. I just went quiet. I started researching. Not just the legal aspects, although I did consult with a lawyer who basically told me I was screwed, but also Marketees itself. I signed up for an account using a fake name and email address and started poking around the code, the security protocols. I wanted to see how they'd implemented my idea, what corners they'd cut, what vulnerabilities they might have overlooked. And that's when I found it. A gaping hole in their security, a vulnerability so massive it was practically begging to be exploited. It was like they'd left the back door wide open. I went to a lawyer, to cover my bases. A sleazy-looking guy named Morty who advertised on daytime TV. He told me I had a decent case for intellectual property theft, but it would be a long, expensive battle with no guaranteed outcome. He said, "Liam, these things can drag on for years, cost you a fortune, and still end in a settlement where you get pennies on the dollar." He was right. The legal route was too slow, too uncertain, and I didn't have the resources to wage a protracted legal war. So I started working on a different path, a much riskier path. Day after day, night after night, I studied Marketees' system, looking for weaknesses. I became obsessed. I dove deep into the code, reverse engineering their security, and learned everything I can. I felt like I was in the Matrix, seeing the code behind the world. I downloaded it, every single file, every piece of customer data I could get my hands on. Names, addresses, credit card numbers, marketing strategies, everything. Then, I started anonymously leaking that data to Innovate Solutions competitors. A few customer lists here, a snippet of their marketing strategy there, a confidential sales projection. All carefully placed to cause maximum damage. I used burner phones, encrypted emails, and a VPN connection to cover my tracks. I was meticulous. It was subtle at first. A few whispers in the industry, a couple of lost deals. But then it started to snowball. Competitors started undercutting them, launching eerily similar features, poaching their best salespeople. The rumors of data breaches started to spread like wildfire. The stock price plummeted. Customers started jumping ship. The sharks were circling. Richard was on damage control, but it was too late. He held press conferences, issued statements, promised to improve security. But nobody believed him. The damage was done. The company was bleeding money, trust, and talent. He was scrambling, firing people, trying to find someone to blame, but the cracks were too deep. The foundation was crumbling. Finally, it happened. Innovate Solutions declared bankruptcy. Richard was ruined. His reputation was in tatters, his assets were seized, and he was publicly humiliated. I read about it online, sipping my coffee, a strange sense of calm washing over me. Justice. Sweet, sweet justice? Did I feel bad? A little. It's never a good feeling to see someone's life fall apart. But then I remembered him firing me, stealing my idea, and taking credit for my hard work. I remembered the stress, the sleepless nights, the toll it had taken on my relationship with Sarah. And I didn't feel bad anymore. Not one bit. Sarah and I had eventually separated. The stress of everything had been too much. It was a painful chapter in my life, one I don't like to revisit. After Innovate Solutions closed and after a period of time, I launched my own platform. I took the severance pay and some savings and used it as seed money. I learned from the mistakes he made. I made sure my cybersecurity measures were top-notch. I hired a team of ethical hackers to test my system for vulnerabilities. I named it Phoenix Marketing Solutions. A phoenix rising from the ashes. Cheesy again, I know, but it felt appropriate. It was slow going at first. I contacted some previous customers from Marketing Ease, the ones who had been burned by the data breach, and offered them a deal. I built my platform with a staff of former employees from Innovate Solutions. People who had also been burned by Richard. People who had lost their jobs, their savings, their faith in the tech industry. We were a team of underdogs driven by a shared sense of purpose. And revenge. Phoenix Marketing Solutions became very successful. We focused on security, customer service, and innovation. We treated our employees well, paid them fairly, and fostered a culture of collaboration and respect. We were everything Innovate Solutions wasn't. Was it the right thing to do? Maybe not. Maybe I should have taken the high road, swallowed my pride, and moved on. Maybe I should have forgiven Richard and wished him well. But honestly, I don't regret a thing. Richard took something from me and I took something back. Maybe it was petty, maybe it was childish, but it was my petty, childish revenge. And it was oh so sweet. You mess with people, they're gonna fight back. And sometimes they're gonna fight dirty. And sometimes they're going to win.